Hey, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to my channel, News Jester. My name is Junior. Today we're continuing the review unboxing of the Inquisitor set that I purchased from Amazon out of a whim, out of the idea that I kind of want to do the Inquisitor set. So we're going to be talking about third, fourth, and fifth, and they're all from the Kenobi series, so that's pretty good. They should have a sense of continuity in the design of their armor, or actually a discontinuity. I'll talk about that more. This is the reason why I wanted to buy the Gaming Greats set, that's supposed to be based on the games rather than the live action, because there really isn't any cohesion to or similarity to the design of their armor. But as I'm talking, I should really be doing a turnaround of these boxes so you can see for yourself before I went ahead and unboxed them. I know that some people display these like that, and that's really kind of interesting, but I don't really collect boxes, so it's interesting but not the reason why I buy toys. Let me go ahead and start unboxing them, and you know what, I'll just unbox the whole lot and we'll talk about the whole lot really quickly in this one setting. This is part two of my review of the Inquisitor set. Give me 1 minute. So here they are out of packaging. We'll do it by numbered, so we'll put 4 and 5th out of the way. We'll start with a third sister. She comes with these lightsabers and her. Yes, okay, so background information on my collection. My 3.75 Star Wars collection started with her. I saw her at Ross for $3.99. Since it was so cheap, I bought it. Very, very impressed with the level of detail paint application they did on that such a small face, and the most importantly, the level of articulation they were able to give. The 3.75 matching this, because I came from the 5-point articulation line of the Star Wars line, so I didn't realize they had progressed far enough that they even had barbell joints in the hips, ankle articulation, or ankle rocker and everything. So this character, even though she's minute in my scope, even though I guess I could fairly say she was not well liked by the Star Wars community in the Kenobi series, she was the starter off of my entire very expensive um, collection of 3.75. Now, having said that, I really didn't mind her character in the Kenobi series. I was either way is fine with me. The only faults that I ever saw on her character was she freaking got stabbed by a lightsaber through her body and she survived. Not only that, she survived and traveled very far. We don't know if she sought medical help. Um, she looks like human, so I'm assuming such a damage like that should have killed her, just as it killed Qui-Gon Jinn. But maybe she's an alien that kind of looks like human and could survive that. I will use that as a sort of suspension of belief. But still, for me to jump that high is kind of like detrimental to accepting the storyline. I also didn't like the fact that, again, she went to the Skywalker Ranch and look for young Skywalker and blah 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 and everything. So that was the only thing. Up to that point, I actually didn't mind her character. I didn't mind her backstory that she was a Padawan in the Jedi Temple. I didn't mind the fact that her mind was turned to the dark side by Vader, and in the end, her hatred towards Vader is what turned her uh, into a Sith. So, anyway, as I'm looking into the third sister, again, I am impressed by the level of detail they have on the face. Let me do a close up really quickly on her, because so with her, this is very, very impressive. I don't know who the actress is. I've never seen her before. All I can tell you is that this portrait very, very much reminds me of her. For a 112 scale, the eyes, the shape of the eyes, shape of her nose, the lips, the shape of her face over here, and yeah, definitely successful um, portrait. Even the hair, how they solved the problem with the hair of the what do you call this type of hair braiding style, um, and then retain that almost like closed shave on the head. That's amazing. Although I do notice I have some paint bleeding going on in the lower neck. This figure has a ball joint on the base of the skull and the lower neck, so she gets a lot of movement on that head. I hope that is going to be for all Star Wars figures throughout. So let's do a close detail look on the armor, just to show you that's an actual sculpted Imperial signal symbol. It's all black, so that's kind of a shame because I would like to see these splotches of color here and there. Nice design on the boots, leather look, and everything. So while we're doing the close-up, here's a close-up of the lightsaber. Oh, so that's the difference. With hers, it's just a half circle compared to the other Sith or Inquisitors. That's a full circle. And this is the reason why I thought all of them were supposed to have a blade that separates, which is what this one does. Separates into two. So instead of doing the gimmick where they separate, they actually gave you two separate lightsabers that's cut. There's really no way to hang this. But I thought in the I thought in the Rebels that this was designed to split anyway. I'll have to check and see. But anyway, so that's the lightsaber for the third sister. Um, she doesn't have anything to peg this onto, so I don't even know where she's supposed to hold this. Anyway, let's do the articulation for the third sister, and I'll be right back. So I've already shown you the head articulation pretty much unencumbered. Now here's an interesting design on the shoulder pauldron. This is one separate piece, but then she has a secondary piece that's in here. And it's kind of interesting because this one's straight and this one's not. So somehow, see how there's a strap in there? But I think that strap is connected to some sort of circular object there. So you should be able to move this, right? Yeah, see? See how I'm able to move it like that? It moves. There's an inner circle ring in there where that whole thing is attached. But because this is softer rubber, it's not impeding the movement of the shoulder. So that's pretty cool. Again, no bicep cut. It's the rotation is in the elbow. No gauntlet. Oh, there is a gauntlet split. You see that? So that's cool. And then the wrist cut over here that rotates, and then the joint is an up and down joint on the wrist. And then she also has a waist cut on a ball peg. So you have all that articulation. No drop down on the leg thigh, but it does afford you an almost near 90 degrees. Single joint on the knees, which is I'm preferring more. Although she only goes up to 90 instead of like an additional 105. That's still pretty good in my opinion. And up and down on the ankle. Down is really good. Up is good enough. And an ankle rotation that's well done, I think. So yeah, pretty good, pretty impressive in this figure. I really like the fact that they were able to do this silhouette on the thighs. Very natural looking thighs for sure. Yeah, I think this is a very, very successful rendition of the character in the toy form. So now let's go on to the fourth sister. So the fourth sister here, again, really cool. Let me close up on her face. So here's a close up of her face. Because she's an alien and we don't really see a lot of makeup on her, we'll just see this very plain color on her skin. She does have the marking, so we'll just have to concentrate on her eyes, on her eye detail. Again, nice eye detail, and you have the eye lining over there, eyeliner, and some sort of shadow makeup. And, so this, it's a good portrayal because you can definitely see she's not a young um, person. She's maybe middle age or mostly in her 30s. I love the detail on her headdress. Very interesting. It makes me wonder what kind of species she is. Look, the armor detailing over here, it has an almost leathery texture. Really interesting. This is where you peg in her lightsaber. Her armor detail is so much better. Oh, it's messing around with my see that? There's definitely much more intricate armor detail. She has this armband over here. So like out of the two, between the third sister and the fourth, I prefer her. And in this situation, I do kind of regret the fact that there's no uniformity in the armor pieces that the Inquisitors wear, because I really do prefer her design much better. This ridge in the shoulder design, kind of reminiscent of the Praetorian Guard of the Emperor, or even Kylo Ren's. Even the gauntlet is more intricate on the fourth sister. Look at that. And then her belt, just much more intricate in detail in terms of her armor and uniform. I really, really like her. So let's bring in the second sister, third sister, and the fourth sister. So it's kind of interesting when you're looking at these four, where she almost doesn't have any armor, more of a uniform. She has an armor in here, as you can see, but very light. And then you have full on, not, I don't think this is, you can classify this as armor, but, and if you do, it would be more like a leather armor rather than a hard armor, because of the texturing that's going on in here as well. Out of the three female Inquisitors, the fourth Inquisitor is the most intricate in armor design and the one that I like the most. Even the headgear, of course the third sister doesn't have one, hers is even more intricate and even more interesting. Yeah. Yeah, definitely liking her. Let's look at her lightsaber. Let's see, here's her lightsaber, just a circular lightsaber. Let's compare it to the second sister's. So the second sister is almost simplistic. It's just an oval ring around here and something in the hilt. Hers is a lot more complex compared to the third sister. The outer ring has that complex design as well, but still different. So they have a singularity or individualistic feel on their lightsabers, very similar to how a Jedi's lightsaber has their own unique signature design. Let's go really quickly on her articulation. Okay, so she also has a ball joint on the base of her neck, head, and the base of her neck. One to move up, and then, but her movement on the base of her neck is not as wide ranging as I have seen. So, but still gives you a little bit more movement. So that's up, decent amount, down with the help of the neck. Otherwise, on just the head joint is there's nothing, but when you combine it with the neck joint, then you have a little bit down. For the shoulders, goes unhindered by that. Even though this is a more harder rubber because it's so small, it won't hinder it as well. Again, no bicep cut, but more of a an elbow cut rotation and rotation on the wrist. Nothing on the gauntlet for her. Up and down on the wrist joint. Her cut is on the bottom of the ribs instead of the waist, unlike the third sister or the second sister. So it has that much of a movement forward, very minimalistic, almost nothing. Back, a little bit better. Now this skirt is much wider and longer or more narrower than the second sister, so I'm assuming constraint. That one moving forward is a good 90. I keep forgetting to do the backwards on some of them. That's it for the backward movement of the leg. As for the side, as I suspected, it's gonna be hindered. So at the most there. I think that's a good enough range, I think. And then you have a thigh cut in the same singular design on neck joint on the knee. That gives you enough for 90, and that's basically it. And then ankle rocker and going up to the most extreme poses and going up to what's necessary. So yeah, I think this is out of the three, like I said, she's the most successfully depicted, most intricate, most more intriguing design out of the three sisters. So pretty good on that. And with that, actually, maybe I should try to actually put this and peg this on the back. Yeah, there you go. Wow. I really wish that all of them could do that. Yeah. Right. Now on to the fifth brother. The last of the Inquisitors that I have. I don't know how many Inquisitors there are in the Star Wars universe. You guys will have to let me know. And I don't know how many has been depicted in the games, in the comics, or even in the books, or even in the live action. I think in the one of the animations on Disney, is it called Sith Visions or whatever? One of the storyline had something to do with the Jedi Padawan that turned traitor and killed Jedi's, and she was being turned into an Inquisitor. So I don't know if she was the sixth sister or not. I can't remember. I really could just look up on Disney, but I feel like I'm too lazy to do that. So right now, the end of my Inquisitor search is gonna end with the fifth brother. I hope they do more. Look on to the fifth brother. The fifth brother. Now, when I don't know why, but for some reason, when I envisioned the fifth brother, I thought he would be much more bigger in stature. He seems like just an ordinarily depicted person. I thought he would be bigger. I think he is the fifth brother in the Rebels that was kind of looked like shark-like, but different depicted here in the live action. I'm fine with that. This guy looks pretty good too. In fact, let's do a close-up on the face and in the body armor type. So again, we are treated with a very pale complexion on the face. So very limited in terms of paint application. So what we're down to is in the eyes. Like how successful are the eyes painted, believable or not. The same with the lips. Now I wonder if this is actually, sorry for the blurriness, the same race as the Grand Inquisitor because they both have pale faces, and almost the same color scheme. If you look at the lips, where they're like a pale blue. That's just me wondering. I don't know. But again, I believe when I try to remind myself what the fifth brother looked like in the live action, this is what I see. So I feel that they're successful in that. I didn't realize that there's a red here, a red there. Interesting. I'm not particularly fond of the design of this helmet. I think it's geeky. It reminds me of those Padawan helmets that they have to cover their faces, the big bulky one. But hey, I guess if that's the way it's designed, that's the way it is, right? So here's the chest armor. Interesting level of detail here. Again, he's sporting this ridged or ribbed shoulder fabric. This again is sculpted. Then that very nice design on this one. Now this one I definitely would call an armor. Unlike hers, it is a leather armor, but this is more like a hard combat armor. Intricate belt pattern, gauntlets intricate. This one here, I wanna I'll talk back again on that one later on. Some pants detail, again boots and everything. And there's the back. And while I have you in close up, we'll take a look at his lightsaber. Doesn't have those protruding things that the female ones have, as you can see. He only has this one here. Doesn't separate or anything, and the pegging system is different. It's got one big peg, but at least it can do that, which I like. All right, so let me zoom out and we'll talk some more. So let me put out the sisters out and we'll start comparing the fifth brother to the Inquisitor and Cal Kestis. So again, looking at their armor, I prefer the shininess of the Cal Kestis Inquisitor, but I prefer the detail on this too. It makes sense for the Grand Inquisitor to have a more simplistic design on his armor, and his is more functional. But I still prefer his because there's a lot of complex shapes going on in his armor, very similar to the complexity of the third sister. Not necessarily in these hard geometric forms in the armor, but more towards the line work that's going on in her armor. I also want to point out that even though they share the same complex design on the belt compared to Cal Kestis, again, I don't know how far along he got in his Inquisitor vision, if he became an actual Inquisitor, or if he's just a learner, or a Padawan, or an apprentice, so that he never, his position never got elevated to have these complex designs. So I can kind of rationalize my way to say that still fits, you know. But then his gauntlet is act more detailed than the Grand Inquisitor. And I also want to point out, if you see this leg armor, see how this one curves in, his curves out, but the same amount of detail is in there. But for Cal Kestis, the design is actually closer to these two, where his goes out and his also goes out. But Kestis doesn't have that detail that's going on with the fifth brother. I also like the fact that he's in some sort of, what do you call these, height extenders to give him more height. That's why I keep thinking he's supposed to be much bigger, depicted in the live action, and they used height extenders for the character. But it's kind of funny because they, in their goal for accuracy, they included that in the toy figure as well. But yeah, let's look at the articulation for the fifth brother. So he also has a ball joint on the base of the the head and something in the base of the neck, but the way it's sculpted, it's really not moving a lot. So going up is, I would say, that much, and just on the base of the neck, there's not much going down, but there is a little bit. It's a little bit helped by the neck area. This is a more firmer rubber pauldron, so instead of rotating straight up, you need to be, you're forced going out here, but it can do 90 degrees going sideways. Again, no bicep cut, but does have the elbow rotation and slightly above 90. No, it's too small to be able to say it's just 90 degrees. So nothing on the gauntlet. There is one on the wrist rotation, and the wrist goes up and down. And with him, the rotation is on the bottom of the ribs with a ball joint, so you can move freely well. Goes back very well. Can he move forward? So it's the limitation of moving forward for all these figures has nothing to do with the design of the armor in the front. Probably has something to do with how they designed the ball joint and the socket system, because there's no reason why this thing should not be going as much forward than they can backwards. This armor is actually a separate piece from the actual body itself, as you can see. Interesting. No waist cut. Again, no hip drop down joint on the hip, but you don't need it because he can go full 90 if you want to. And then will this hinder? Basically the same as Cal Kestis. It lifts up, but it doesn't look good, so I would say maybe only up to there, 45 degree. Thigh cuts, good. Single joint, that gives you more than 90. I think that's just fine. You can do this much pose. I guess if you wanted to kneel a little bit more, then you won't with this kind of a joint, but I think it's fine. And I forgot to mention, in all these, it does have a rotation on the knee as well, so it can sit almost cross-legged if you wanted to. And there's no boot cut, but ankle down goes up to there, ankle up is good enough, and rotation on the ankle is there. So I think that's all pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and value all 5 of the Inquisitors for what I've gotten. Let's see, this one's 1 here, 2, 3, 4. All right, so in average, I paid, I would say, around $16 per figure, because this set is 50 or 45, no, 50 in total. So that's probably $16.50 per figure. And then these, I believe, were around $15 or $16. So I'm going to say $16.50 for averaging per figure. Instead of paying the full 24, I'm comfortable with that. Again, like I said, because I was able to finish the whole Inquisitor line to my satisfaction and not have to pay the full price of $25. It's basically 30%